Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday. I am the Grace Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Wednesday, May 1st, 2024. What do we have coming through in the cards for today? May I please have the first 5 cards in our 5-card spread. First card we are starting our day off with today is 4 of Cups in its upright. I'm not surprised to see this. One of the things that we see that was happening over the last few days, I'm telling you, this is a little bit of the come down that we've been experiencing ever since all of that energetic intensity, which was like the layer cake of the eclipse season on top of the Mercury retrograde, on top of that Scorpio full moon. It was very heavy, but one of the things that we saw, the big overarching theme in relationality to some of that energetic expansion, was introspection and clarity. Introspection and clarity, building that sense of affirmation in relationality to the pathwork going forward. And we see that for a lot of energy across all of the frequencies, a lot of that work, moving through it with intentionality, it really potentially sharpened your own focus in relationality to what it is that you're truly seeking. And we see even now that that is what's amplifying a lot of the journeys across all of the frequencies right now. Masculine and feminine energy in the heart of the divine union frequency. One of the things that we saw, especially if there was those moments that we were experiencing or seeing those wounds rising up to the surface, potentially something that may have not necessarily been created from within the divine union frequency, but something that you brought in from without. The energy that is coming into divine union frequency right now is building into the center of intimacy right now through a lot of that understanding of the other. And moving into that space or places, as we mentioned, seeing the wounds of the other, but holding space for them energetically, being able to be energetically mindful, and not just holding those wounds or those insecurities of the other, but not navigating them in such a way that you are being prescriptive on how to, but almost being energetically mindful in how another wants you to carry something. That, in a way, is reaffirming a lot of the energetic pathwork right now of energy that's moving deeper into the heart of the divine union frequency, because that is that energetic equivalent of having something that has potentially occurred in the past. But what happens in that moment where a vulnerability is expressed and it doesn't feel like it creates that sense of being pushed away at that time? What comes into that place or space where something is not creating that reactivity point or that volatility point, but rather it's almost that softening, that vulnerability that is expressed and communicated and articulated? Then that's that moment that the wound doesn't become a reactivity space, but it almost becomes the energetic tie that binds. It allows for productivity. It allows for energetic breakthroughs. And we see even now, as we said, like that moment of, again, the energy coming into divine union, almost utilizing anything that felt like a trigger point to almost be an opportunity to help discern and show someone another's energetic map, almost showing them the areas where those wounds occurred, being very mindful and almost navigating those spaces and saying, this is an insecurity for me. This is a sensitivity. This is an energetic soft spot. That moment of being able to build the energetic connection point through that takes a lot of energetic work, because that takes a lot of understanding of the self and also being able to be intimate with another. So we see even now, for a lot of the feminine and masculine energy, there's almost something very funny happening here. Because for the masculine energy, that's almost saying to the feminine and saying, like, I'm not necessarily great at this. This is a place that feels energetically sensitive. I know I have these triggers. I know I've got these. I'm not energetically perfect. This is almost the feminine energy saying, yes, you are. Like, yes, you are. Because this is the feminine energy that feels that expansion point that says, as long as you can do this in a small way, that is the seed through which that this can continue to grow. Because that moment of being able to refine and identify something, to see something within the self and articulate it, even the ability to move into that moment of observing the self in such a capacity, you just need a little bit of it, because that little bit grows into an ability to understand something better, right? So we see even now that these are energies that are building these types of energetic connections right now of coming into divine union. And a lot of it is coming into that space or state of energetically working through or talking about one's own insecurities, one's own moments of energetic intimacy. Because what happens in those moments where we feel the safety and security of being able to express a vulnerability and not have it create a sense of reactivity in the other, but instead that sense of curiosity, that desire to understand in order to facilitate and do something energetically better. That is that energy that feels like they're speaking towards the heart of compassion for one another, because that's that moment of someone saying, I want to know as much about you as possible. There's nothing that you're showing me that I don't see that isn't navigable. So please tell me more, right? So we see even now that is that energetic building of connectivity that is happening right now within these partnerships or situations. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is in the heart of the divine union frequency, the only key difference that we are identifying at this time is while we see that the energy that is coming into the divine union frequency is navigating these spaces and places with a moment of energetic discernment, stepping away from something, if you will, putting some energetic distance there. The energy in the heart of the divine union frequency is leaning in further. The energy in the heart of the divine union frequency is now in that space or in that place where it doesn't feel like that is a moment that requires energetic caution. These are the places and spaces that now feel like they're creating the energetic exception to the rule, if you will, by building enough energetic trust between the counterpart and the self, wherein you can navigate something that is typically unnavigable. You can touch something that is sometimes a soft or sore subject or soft spot for you. That ability to be able to navigate with that sense of care and conscientiousness, having built that point of energetic trust, that is allowing the amplification of new experiences and new possibilities, particularly if that is that moment that feels like it's creating a new reactivity point, like not feeling that same reaction. That is like what almost allows for that blossoming of new energetic opportunity and experience and possibility. Whereas for masculine and feminine energy right now, in separation, spring is in the air. So this is talking again, new connections, new possibilities, new healing journeys that are occurring right now. And this is potentially, again, building upon new experiences with outside energy. So even the energy right now in separation, what happens when we're able to take an energetic wound and let it kind of like empower us? You know, it's almost that like Superman moment, because that's that moment that you're not holding, you don't feel you're hiding an energetic secret. It doesn't feel like you're carrying an energetic wound. This is energy right now that is almost like reclaim their own self in that moment. And they're building upon that space where the energetic wound is becoming a place of energetic strength. It's becoming the strong spot, right? For the feminine, that is taking anything that feels like it may have crossed that energetic boundary and building that sense of energetic confidence in terms of understanding the self right now and utilizing that as that sense of setting the energetic standard. While for masculine, that is that moment if you feel any kind of energetic regret, not letting you move forward with that energetic regret, but saying, I recognize that the present gives me the opportunity to make any changes to affirm my own commitment to changing the past by being in an expressed new priority in the present. So we see both of these energies right now being able to take the lessons from that recent period, that understanding of self, and utilizing it to build upon new energetic experiences in the present moment. And that, again, is either going to be a lot of that energy of potential reconnection. But the difference about this type of reconnection, I'm going to stress, is not energy reconnecting because of a space or place of energetic passion for one another. But again, potentially masculine energy being able to approach feminine and say, again, what do we see? I identify, I recognize, I see what I would energetically do differently, that is allowing for that facilitation of something energetically new. While as for feminine, that is potentially receiving that to a certain extent. So this is, again, I see two different modalities that are occurring here. These are either energies that are experiencing those moments of energetic breakthrough, seeing something that is truly changed, or these are new energetic connections with others that are on the same healing journey. And there may be a lot of similarities or similitudes that are happening in those moments because we see Did you see how aligned, if you go back to yesterday's reading, how aligned the masculine and feminine energy was to a certain extent? That almost defines those spaces and places of being able to have that type or degree of energetic healing. Second card in our 5-card spread for today is, we have here our 9 of Cups in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy in separation. This ability, this moment, or this modality of feeling like you're creating these new energetic connections, it almost feels a little bit like that sense of relief. And we see even now that for a lot of that energy, this is giving me a lot of this vibration for a lot of the energy in separation, feeling that sense of being energetically ready to proceed forward in that way. Because what we're really seeing here is that modality of building even here on these experiences with that sense or ability of vulnerability, right? Because we saw that for a lot of the energy right now in separation, that moment or that modality was trying to unpack something that was a little bit difficult to energetically unpack, right? Masculine and feminine energy looking and almost trying to answer the same energetic question in relationality to saying, how can I move forward from a state of vulnerability? How can I be authentically vulnerable without almost feeling like I'm moving into that place of allowing myself to be energetically wounded? For the feminine, that is that sense of the energetic confidence, setting the standard, right? That doesn't feel like the feminine is withholding from the masculine. That is the feminine feeling that energetic confidence in, again, being able to move forward in that way, so long as they're feeling the energetic security. They're letting the past experience energetically guide them in new ways. While as for masculine energy right now, that same ability of setting the energetic standard, if you will, that is that moment that feels like the foundation of wisdom, because that is looking back with the point of accountability for the past, but recognizing and identifying it so as not to energetically repeat it. So we see even now that for a lot of the energy in separation right now, that feels like an energetic breakthrough point. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is coming into divine union, this is the energetic equivalent of feeling the safety and security of feeling someone who is already energetically approaching something in a way that expresses how energetically healed someone is, right? Because even now we see that a lot of this energy, this is that moment, having done enough work on the self, not coming into those reactivity spaces, not allowing yourself to feel energetically reactive at a moment that you see another person's wounds or insecurities, but almost approaching them with that sense of energetic compassion and curiosity. We see even now that these energies, it's not that they're navigating them in the way that they themselves would, right? That is holding space for the self. That is almost stepping back from something to a certain extent. But there's that identification point of even thinking to one another at those times and saying, perhaps the day will come, like almost wanting to understand something better, right? Being mindful, but almost in that sense of not wanting to repeat the energetic lessons in the past, not wanting to inadvertently cause those same wounds to occur, but also being almost even now in this moment, very energetically mindful of what to do to potentially heal them in the long term. And even that ability of looking at something and saying, I'm already thinking about how to heal something in the long term, that feels like the affirmation of energetic commitment, because that is the energy that is already moving in that state or space of recognizing what they feel can be healed in the moment or needs to be healed with time, right? And that is happening both within and without. While for masculine and feminine energy, that is in the heart of the divine union frequency, this is a lot of that energetic breakthrough potentially being received to a certain extent in relationality to circumstances and situations wherein the energy is able to approach something in a way that they haven't before. They're able to navigate something in a way that they haven't before. That ability to do so, that ability to approach something that is typically too tender, to touch, that ability to navigate those spaces and places, that in itself energetically feels like the energetic breakthrough, because that is that moment that suddenly having a point and not experiencing the same reactivity point almost leaves for this opening up of possibilities and experiences. Third card in our 5-card spread for today is, we've got here our Knight of Cups, masculine and feminine energy right now in the divine union frequency. This is that moment that we see even now. This is building into that heart of vulnerability. It's allowing a lot of energetic catharsis. May have been a lot of stillness yesterday, entering for a lot of these energies. But what we're identifying and recognizing at this time is, for masculine energy specifically right now, there's a lot of energetic honesty that's coming into play, because this is masculine energy at the heart of the divine union frequency that is healing their connection to feminine energy. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, right? This is that masculine energy almost coming towards a space or place of being energetically vulnerable, expressing that authentic emotionality. And what is the masculine energy experiencing at this time? Is that masculine energy feeling that sense of energetic rejection? Is that the masculine energy feeling that sense of not being received? No, this is almost the masculine energy at the heart of the divine union frequency right now, experiencing those moments or that ability to almost overcome their own limitations in relationality to that, because that's where a lot of the wound of the masculine is held, in terms of feeling the ability to authentically express from the emotional center. While for feminine, the feminine's ability right now to navigate forward, to be able to, again, also be energetically receptive towards the masculine. These are the energies right now that are experiencing those moments of the deepening of an energetic commitment, because both of these energies are feeling an abundance of emotionality here. But what's important about it is it's not creating that state or space of building an energetic wall between them. Rather, it's that moment that feels like that energetic bridge that is forming. So we see even now a lot of that energy that is navigating this right now. They're doing so with the expressed desire of building an even deeper energetic connection, right? That's what we do when we start to navigate those spaces and places that others typically aren't able to cross, right? While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, that ability to, again, what is the energy doing right now to build into the heart of intimacy? Are these energies pushing forward in this moment? No. Quite the opposite right now, because these are energies that are just beginning to understand the other. And as I said, that is that gift that is being experienced in not just seeing something, not just identifying something energetically, but being very mindful on how someone else wants you to carry it, right? That is that moment of energetic delicacy, stepping back, if you will. And even in that moment, there could be a moment with some of these energies that it like feels to a certain extent almost like there might be something that you would take a different energetic approach to. But what are these energies doing? They're being very mindful and compassionate in relationality to how someone else wants to navigate something. And that is building the energetic bridge of intimacy in the moment of not only trusting someone to carry your energetic wounds, but also being very energetically mindful about the fact that you recognize that they will carry them in a way that you would aspire and desire that they do so. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is in separation. For the energy that's in separation right now, this is a lot of that modality of building new energetic connections. This is just a lot of new experiences coming into play right now, a lot of new energetic opportunities. And even now, what's beautiful about this is we see that this is either new energetic connections that are coming through right now, being built upon a lot of conversation about the past experiences, observing what you would energetically change, right? And there's almost a moment that we see a lot of these energetic connections, even if they're new, being very mindful about talking about the past and what you would aspire and desire in relationality to going forward. These are baby steps, right? These are energetic baby steps that we're almost seeing to a certain extent. But these are really lovely baby steps, because what we're really seeing here to a certain extent is these energies are being, look how energetically authentic, leading from the heart space, leading from the aspirational point, leading from a place or space of trying to be energetically authentic while maintaining energetic standards in relationality, to not feeling like you're completely open, right? You're not just a completely open book, but you're almost like building that sense of energetic trust, right? And that's that moment that feels like a bridge that you're creating, like brick by brick. So we see even now that this is either new energetic connections that are happening here, or restorations of pathwork wherein someone truly feels like they have that sense of understanding, of accountability in identifying what they can change in the self that would produce a different experience, or allow for something to be energetically rebuilt in a different way. Fourth card in our 5-card spread for today is, we've got here our 4 of Swords in its upright. So again, this energy today is still very kind of dormant. We saw some of this dormancy yesterday coming into play with a lot of that reverse sword energy. We still have a little bit of that too. It feels a little bit of like a blanket effect, right? It's a little bit of that like heavy blanket energy. So there could be a lot of need or desire right now for rest or restoration, just taking it something energetically easy, which is not surprising given all of the energetic intensity that we've been experiencing over the last few weeks. Now, masculine and feminine energy right now in separation. This is that moment. This is almost that moment that feels really energetically positive, because look at these energies. They're moving towards each other with a lot of intentionality, and they're going very slowly. Like I said, very, very slow baby steps right now, taking energetic time, being very energetically intentional. So we see to a certain extent that feels very much like these energies are almost building into that space and state of the trust space first, prior to moving forward in terms of any kind of passionate connection, because we see even now, this is a lot of energy right now in separation, which makes sense if you're on the healing journey, that is trying to articulate about the desire of building a truly energetically authentic experience with another via the emotions. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is coming into divine union, this is that energetic equivalent right now of looking towards someone, holding space for the wounds, holding space for anything that they're bringing forward towards you, something that they're almost bringing in from outside the divine union frequency, right? That's not that moment. We don't want to see someone carrying in one of those wounds or scars. There's always that aspiration of trying to energetically heal something, but these energies are also being very mindful on how they want something to be navigated, how they want something to be held, because that is that moment of building upon the center of trust and faith, recognizing that feeling of almost saying there may be that time, sometime down the line, wherein something can be unpacked and healed. But that is that moment that, again, it doesn't create that sense or space of something that feels like there is that necessity to energetically heal it. Right, there's almost that moment of saying that there is an aspiration and hope for it to do so, but it isn't an energetic necessity, right? While for masculine and feminine energy, this is that energetic moment. We see that a lot of the energy right now is feeling that sense coming into play of being able to unpack something and being able to heal something, moving into something all for the sake. Why are the energies in the heart of the divine union frequency doing this right now? Because they're navigating that map of the highest self, right? The energy coming into divine union is learning the map of the present self. The energy at the heart of the divine union knows the map of the present self, and they're trying to overlay the highest self on the map of the present self. And the way to navigate forward, the way to become the higher self from the present self, is to heal the energetic wounds. So we see even now that is why this path work for the energy coming into divine union, it's something that it doesn't feel like it's energetically rushed, because they recognize and realize that that is hard work. It takes time. It comes in waves, because it's almost that moment of identifying, and I need to say this, the difference between energetically rushing forward on something, right? The ability to heal something also is expressed in the relationality to one's own control over it. So we see even now that that slowness, that intentionality that is being expressed here is almost that moment of the energy. I told you, with that sense of energetic uncertainty, that is the amplification, if you will, in feeling something and saying, I'm not only having a different reactivity point to it, but I'm able to sit with comfort within it, right? And so that's that moment that almost feels like that point of amplifying the difference between something that you can feel for a moment versus something that feels like it is growing, or you're building your own ability to navigate in a way that it's not creating the same sense of reactivity. Like that's that moment that says, like, again, like almost that point of being, like giving something a little bit of space is the amplification that almost feels like the affirmation of really feeling that energetic confidence point, not even at the moment of having a breakthrough, but even afterwards, right? Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Fifth card in our 5-card spread for today is, we have here, oh, beautiful energy right now. We've got here our 10 of Swords in its upright. So what happens when we go through all of this energetic work? What happens when we're able to unpack something that we typically can't unpack? What happens when we're able to navigate a space or place that is usually something that is sensitive? That is that moment. And what happens when we're able to do it in an environment where we feel that sense of energetic safety, support, and security? That is that moment that we feel that sense of new possibilities, that expansion, that 10 of Swords in its reversal that we have here. So we see even now that energetic equivalent, and I got to say, even now, you see this stop-start that we've got here that's happening right now for a lot of the energy in the divine union frequency, that ability to almost feel like it's not just like, that's the beauty about it. This is not feeling like the type of work that was like a momentary instant, right? This is that moment that almost feels like that energetic, like vitality coming towards something, because that is that moment that with the time, or the element of time added, it just further energetically affirms something, right? Like that's that moment. So we see even now, why are those energies moving with such slowness? Because that is the difference about something energetically feeling like something that is momentary, right? A momentary occurrence versus that energetic steadfastness, if you will, in feeling the energetic security point, in not only experiencing something instantaneously, but also being able to feel the energetic equivalent of being able to maintain that same energetic feeling. So a lot of the energy right now in the heart of the divine union frequency, feeling that. But again, what's beautiful about this is it doesn't feel like it is rushed. It feels like it is very grounded. It feels like it is very heavy. It feels like it's very affirming, in the sense that it's just that moment that even as time moves through, you feel even more energetically confident, right? That's that expansion point. While for the energy right now that is coming into divine union, this is that energetic equivalent that we're seeing that feels, it might not necessarily feel like you're unpacking stuff right now. You're discovering things. You're learning each other's energetic maps. And even what happens in those moments of learning energetic maps, you see those sensitivity areas. You see those insecurities. You see those destabilized places. It can be hard when you move into the divine union frequency, because it's almost like seeing like a bunch of demolition sites that you didn't create within another. And there's that mindfulness of, again, wanting to potentially like navigate those, wanting to energetically heal something, but almost recognizing and being energetically mindful of what someone else wants you to do, or how someone needs you to be in order to facilitate that sense of energetic harmony. So what are these energies doing as that act of energetic compassion towards one another? They're making those energetic notes. They're being very energetically mindful in the present, but there's already that moment of looking towards something and saying, My expansion of love for you, my expression of compassion is to hopefully take that place that you're hurting and make that place that you heal. And these energies, they're not feeling like that is their purpose. They're not rushing into something with the sole desire to do that. Because that would be something that feels more self-serving to the self. That is that moment of saying to one another, when you're energetically ready, I want us to navigate that. When you're ready to do that work, I want to heal with you, right? So that's that moment that almost feels affirming in those spaces and places, specifically because it's almost that pathwork of allowing something to be experienced the way that it is now, but almost with that aspiration of hope of building into something as you move forward and you build into that heart of energetic trust, security, and confidence. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Four of Cups in combination with our Nine of Cups in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our High Priestess in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy. This is where a lot of that healing is occurring. While for the energy right now in separation, one of the things that we're seeing is, again, what did I tell you was happening for a lot of the energy in separation? That energetic feeling of confidence, if you will. There was a lot of that energy feeling somewhat empowered over the last few days. The energy even recognizing and saying to themselves, I know I might not necessarily feel this confident. I know that this is something that might feel like it's momentary. I'm almost going to log this in the bank of the self to a certain extent to remember on those days that it becomes energetically harder. This is a lot of that energy right now in separation that's doing that work in relationality to, again, what happens in those moments that you realize that you're having those ups and downs. You're almost like tracking your own energetic process of healing and saying, as long as the ups are higher than the downs, then that is that moment of someone saying, it's okay if my healing isn't linear, so long as it is consistent on the trajectory that it's going, right? That's that moment, like I told you, it's like that glacier effect. It's okay if it backslides, so long as you see that energetic process, if you will. And we see even now the energy being able to identify that and potentially even building those connections and saying, I've got good days and bad days. I've got positive, some days are easier, some days are harder. Navigating through that is actually where we see these could be energies building. I told you, these energies on the healing journey, building energetic connections through navigating forward on how they're how they're feeling, even through that journey, as well as energy that is able to build upon those connections. This is all that ability to do so, but with so much energetic mindfulness in affirming and seeing how someone is energetically feeling, right? Continuing forward on this in this way between our Nine of Cups in its reversal in combination with our Four of Cups in its upright. We've got here our High Priestess in its reversal. So this is a lot. Look at the wounds that are being healed in this moment. Where are these energetic wounds that are healing right now? They can be very triggering. They can be very, this is where a lot of that abandonment wound comes to the surface, right? Happening across all of the frequencies right now, okay? Feminine energy, doubting their own self, doubting their own intentionality, questioning their own self, right? That is where the healing or the wound of the feminine is existing. The moments or spaces of the feminine, doubting their own, over questioning their own self, doubting their own ability, doubting their own experience, right? That's a lot of that feminine energy, again, coming out into that place of the boundaries, right? Versus feeling that sense of energetic stability, right? The difference between an energetic boundary, right? That curling up versus feeling that energetic standard, right? So we see even now, that is that moment that we recognize and identify that a lot of the feminine energy is saying to themselves, even now, this is the feminine in separation going, if today's one of those days that they feel a little bit more tender, this is the feminine almost saying, I didn't feel like this a day ago. I didn't feel like this a day ago. So this is the feminine energy that's even identifying their own ability to be adaptable, right? But what is the feminine doing here in separation? The feminine energy is observing the feminine energy's own tendencies, and that in itself is something that is helping the feminine, even in separation right now, come into those moments of, again, almost feeling that glacier effect, saying some days are hard, some days are easier. It's not that the healing journey isn't one that I'm going to feel like super confident every moment of the day. I'm not going to feel like really, really like, it's not going to be like, I'm not going to be like this every moment. It's the feminine almost saying, I understand that that the healing journey is not linear. Some days I'll feel more sensitive. Some days I'll feel more energetically confident. But as long as one overarches on the other, like that's that moment of feeling like that, as long as the trajectory is in the right direction, then that's the feminine that's almost charting their own energetic course, not in the time frame of how they're feeling in the exact moment, but looking at something energetically, holistically to a certain extent. While for masculine energy right now, for the masculine energy that is in separation, a lot of this work is very much intentional. A lot of this work is based on the masculine, also identifying that this is the masculine going through that period of feeling or having energetic regrets, if you will. If there are moments that the masculine feels more energetically vulnerable, this is the masculine remembering and saying, I see the fact that I have a trajectory. Some days I feel more vulnerable. Some days it's easier to carry. And what is the masculine energy doing to help with that work? Looking at the long-term trajectory, looking at the bigger picture energetically. And that is what is allowing the masculine to feel that sense of, again, confidence that allows them to go forward towards the feminine. So both of these energies feeling a little bit more energetically sensitive today, potentially not in as much alignment. But again, not getting focused on the immediate energetic feeling, but more on the wider breadth of something to build that sense of energetic confidence. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, this is the energy this is the healing that is being required that the other is energetically seeing right now in relation to coming into the divine union frequency. Masculine may be looking towards the feminine. If the feminine is almost like looking towards a masculine and articulating on their own weaknesses, articulating on their own insecurities, right? Almost again, giving the masculine, almost like articulating upon what created those sensitivities or insecurities in the masculine, in the feminine. Is the masculine saying to the feminine, like, oh, that's energetically true? No. This is almost, again, the masculine energy looking towards the feminine, coming into divine union and saying, I see what the problem is. This is the masculine energy almost looking towards the feminine saying, I see what the problem is. I see what the difficulty here is. Someone has made you energetically insecure. Someone has made you energetically vulnerable, right? And that is, again, that is that moment that almost the masculine energy is looking towards the feminine and seeing something about within the feminine that the feminine can't see. That is that moment of masculine almost looking towards feminine and saying to the feminine in that moment, are those wounds that you're articulating wounds that really would lie within you? Or are you carrying someone else's wounds for them? Was the vulnerability point that you were carrying someone else's wounds and you made them too much your own, right? So that's a masculine potentially observing that in the feminine with the sense or the center ideally wanting to correct, heal, and change that. But again, not necessarily taking that step forward because that's a masculine being energetically mindful of wanting to heal the feminine in that way on the feminine energy's own timeline. While for the feminine energy, this is the feminine energy seeing the masculine coming into divine union. Having that moment of saying, there's something I don't like to energetically talk about. There's something here that I have a hard time with. I get very energetically reactive. And that's potentially the feminine seeing masculine at that moment. And feminine is seeing something that the masculine can't see. That's a feminine seeing the masculine and saying, someone has taught you that it's not safe for you to be emotionally vulnerable. You can't talk about something because it's too hard for you to express your emotionality. So both of these energies looking at something saying, of course, on your timeline, what is the feminine energy aspiring and desiring for? The hope and the desire that one point they can build enough of that energetic connection that bridge can be crossed. So even now, these energies coming into divine union, almost immediately starting to act as the clear mirror of the other, but being very energetically mindful of how to do so in the process. While for masculine and feminine energy, that is in the heart of the divine union, this is the energetic equivalent of doing that work. Having that moment, being like, I think that we're energetically ready to tackle something. I think that we're ready to push forward in this way. That is that moment that we see even now, that those energies are like pushing through and pushing forward, right? And what are those energies navigating? They're navigating those spaces and places wherein, again, the feminine energy builds upon that sense of energetic anxiety in the self, doubting their own self. Masculine saying, let's push forward in that. Let's push forward here. Let's bring you into that better sense of truly appreciating yourself. While for feminine, this is feminine coming towards masculine and saying, let's push forward. Let's be emotionally vulnerable. I want you to know that it's energetically safe to talk about those things that are hard to talk about. So we see even now a lot of these energies like pushing forward in those spaces and places that are difficult. And then immediately doing that work and saying, let's take those vulnerability points and build those bridges there. Let's take those places that are weak and make them energetically strong, because that is the goal or aspiration of moving towards the highest version of self. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, in separation, this is more of that ascertaining of the fact that it's coming in waves. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Nine of Cups in its reversal and our Knight of Cups. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with the Fool card. Now, what's so beautiful about this is, again, I told you there's a little bit of that unknown variable around this right now. There's a little bit of that unknown, right? What happens when we push through our own energetic boundaries, but we do so in a way of feeling safety and security, right? That is that moment of taking a little bit of an energetic leap of faith, but also at the same time feeling that you're not doing it haphazardly. You're doing it in the most safe way possible. You're doing it in that way of feeling energetically protected. And I told you, a lot of this energy doing this work right now has a little bit of a wait and see. You can't predicate upon something that you haven't experienced. I'm going to say it again. You can't predicate on what you haven't experienced. The energy that's in the heart of the divine union frequency is recognizing and identifying that. And that's why we see that there's so much of that slowness that is occurring here, because that is the sense of energetic compassion that allows for that space or place of almost articulating and saying, if you don't necessarily know what's going to occur, then you facilitate that by trying to be as energetically mindful as possible. So these are the energies that are almost covering something and saying to a certain extent, we'll do everything we can and what we can see. And we'll to allow for that sense in the spaces and places that we can't, we'll know that even in those moments, we'll be there to facilitate. Like we'll be there to navigate. And we even see that a little bit of that here is that moment that feels like that amplification, because that's that moment that even in that taking of that energetic risk, pushing forward on that boundary, it doesn't feel like you're doing it by oneself. That is the energy almost affirming on the commitment to energetically do so together, right? While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union, this is that moment that feels like you're seeing potentially situations or circumstances. You're discovering new things about oneself that you potentially did not know. You are seeing those sides of each other that we don't typically or traditionally see, building into the heart of intimacy, right? But what is that energy doing right now, even in those moments of seeing those energetic sides of one another? Even in those difficulties, that is almost that moment. If these energies have done enough work on the self, it's almost that affirmation of looking to someone and being like, I don't know what you're worried about. That seems like a point of perfection for me. That almost seems like you're pretty energetically perfect, right? So we see even now that for a lot of the energy navigating in that way, that ability of seeing that to a certain extent, that is that moment wherein we identify and recognize the energy almost looking towards the other and saying, I don't see anything wrong with that. You seem pretty energetically perfect to me. You seem like I don't see any, like even your like, this is the energy coming into divine union saying, what you're telling me as a red flag seems like the greenest of flags, right? That's that moment where the negative becomes a positive, because being able to articulate in something and say like, this is that thing. This is the energy saying, what thing? That is that point of energetic perfection, as it were. Continuing on this right now for the energy in separation. Masculine and feminine in separation right now, what we're effectively seeing has to do a lot with that energetic work in relationality to moving forward with a sense of care and caution. A lot of this energy right now, feeling that sense of being ready to energetically heal, that energy of being able to move forward right now. And we see even now that for a lot of that energy, in the heart, like in separation, this is that moment. There's a lot of new possibilities here. There's a lot of new connections potentially forming. And the energy here is doing so with the mindfulness, right? Building that energetic connection, like very intentionally, like brick by brick, if you will, because that's that moment that feels like an authentic connection, because it is being very energetically mindful and sensitive of the other. Almost trying to understand, again, not feeling like you're going to show someone's energetic map, but almost trying to get that better sense of understanding through which to identify whether you share the same energetic priorities. So for some of these energies, I told you, some of this energy right now is restorational. Someone coming back to someone and saying, my priorities have shifted, thereby allowing for some kind of new possibility or new beginning. Or these are energies right now that are sharing what their priorities are and affirming and establishing very solid new energetic connections. Continuing to get clarity on these cards right now between our Knight of Cups in combination with our Four of Swords. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Emperor card. Masculine and feminine energy right now. In the heart, in separation. This is a lot of the feminine energy right now in separation. Like being very energetically ready to a certain extent to, build new energetic connections with masculine. Like I'm just seeing that that's effectively happening right now for a lot of the energy in separation. Just almost feeling that sense of saying like, I'm ready. And we see even now that there's feminine energy right now that may potentially either be having new energetic connections with masculine that are beginning here. And the key difference that we're identifying here is if this is masculine energy right now where there's new energetic connections here, feminine is seeing or feeling some type of energetic change here. They're welcoming the possibility that this could be masculine energy that is on that healing journey, that's worked on that path of purpose of the self, right? Because that's the feeling of the masculine that's able to, what happens when the masculine energy is truly in that moment of energetic empowerment? That's a masculine energy that is not energetically afraid to lead forth with their emotions. So feminine is seeing the tendrils of that again, they're taking a wait and see approach. They're not just saying, yay, it's energetically happening. They're being very energetically cautious and careful. But this is the feminine that's almost feeling and experiencing and seeing that occurring, either in the new energetic connections that they're establishing or with energy that's approaching them with that sense of energetic apology that is also matched with accountability. While for masculine energy and separation right now, this is the result of a pathwork of purpose in relationality to, again, what happens when we look back at the past and we don't let ourselves feel overrun with grief, but instead we allow that sense of regret to motivate our actions in the present to be able to affirm and change what we cannot change from the past. This is a lot of the masculine energy, setting that energetic priority and leading forth with it even now, that is allowing that amplification of new energetic connections. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union right now, one of the things that we're energetically seeing to a certain extent is for a lot of the energy that is coming into divine union right now this energetic equivalent that we are seeing, this modality wherein we are identifying and recognizing that work. This is the feminine energy. If this is a feminine energy that showed masculine their insecurities, showed masculine their wounds, did not react, did not subject the masculine to them, but almost articulated them to him. And this is the masculine saying, thank you. I'm not taking that energetically personally. I'm not taking that limit and boundary as a mark against me. I'm recognizing and seeing it for what it is, like a wound that you're entrusting me with. I'm going to protect that for you. That is the feminine energy, but also the masculine saying, but I'm hoping we can heal that someday, right? That is the feminine feeling the security and strength of a masculine energy that, again, has the ability to both be energetically mindful of how the feminine likes to approach something, but also with almost a firm commitment of helping to energetically heal something in the process, right? Because that's almost the masculine saying, I see this as a wound. I see this as something that should be repaired. I'm building my own energetic commitment in helping you heal that. While for masculine energy right now, for masculine energy right now, seeing a feminine wherein, again, you can be vulnerable, you can be emotionally vulnerable. And the feminine energy doesn't allow that to be a moment that they take it energetically personally. Almost, again, has that same mindfulness, has that same energetic curiosity, doesn't take that energetic resilience, your own ability to articulate and say, it's something like not reacting to it, but saying it's something I would prefer not to talk about. Like your own ability to do so in that way. That is, again, the feminine being able to say, I recognize that I'm not going to push you forward in talking about something that you don't want to energetically talk about. I'm going to hold forth on that. I'm going to wait until you're energetically ready. When you're ready, I am here. This is the masculine that also feels the security and security of a feminine, because this is the masculine that says, this is a feminine that allows me to feel what I want to feel and always leaves the opportunity if I feel like I want to become more, if I feel like I'm ready to delve into that. Like that's that moment that almost creates that amplification point. While for masculine and feminine energy in the heart of the divine union frequency right now, this is the energetic equivalent to a certain extent of feeling like that time has like kind of energetically arrived to a certain extent. Because we see even now that for a lot of the energy that is in the heart of the divine union frequency right now, this recognition point, this ability, this is something that you're now feeling like you're almost energetically ready to address. Because this is the energy that they've felt that energetic confidence point. They've held that moment within one another. And even now, there's that opportunity of expansion, but it's not feeling energetically forced. It's almost feeling like both energies are in alignment in relationality to saying that they're ready to move forward in that. But even in that moving forward, it's not something that feels like it is energetically required. It almost just feels like that point or that act of energetic patience in the process, because that type of healing takes a long time. But it's the commitment to the path that is the energetic commitment. It's not something that can heal overnight, but it's almost like the commitment towards healing those parts of the self. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Four of Swords in combination with our Ten of Swords in its reversal. Clarification coming through right now with Magician in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy right now in the divine union frequency. This is that heart of that circumstance or situation, if you will. This is that energetic center, because even now, one of the things that we see, and this is what's so valuable and so important about this work, is that moment of affirmation again, in feeling that sensitivity point, in terms of recognizing and feeling that sense of making sure that there is that mutual point of energetic alignment in pushing forward in that way to heal what feels like it is hard to heal, or navigate what is hard to navigate. Because the reason it's so valuable and the reason that the energy is doing so in such a way, places, we don't want to energetically feel like we're forcing someone into that modality. We almost see that moment that almost like requires that sense of energetic compassion in feeling the willingness of the other to go on that journey with us. So we see even now that that moment of energetic affirmation, that is like what is so valuable and important, because that is why we see that these energies right now are navigating in a way of slowing down and starting up, taking that point of patience, because that moment, that ability, like what happens when we're able to slow something down or speed it up, that is the expression of energetic control, right? That is that moment that feels like something that one has that point of control over. And the difference and the equivalent here is for the energy at the heart of the divine union frequency, that doesn't mean moving on one or another's timeline, right? That means that moment of mutual accountability in what feels right between the energetic counterparts. So we see even now, like that moment of modification is what allows for that feeling of it being energetically healing, as opposed to someone feeling like they're being dragged along on a healing journey that they don't aspire or desire to go on. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that energetic equivalent that we're seeing here, that modality, is one that is the opposite, because what is happening here, these energies are recognizing each other's vulnerabilities. They're recognizing each other's insecurities. They're almost committing to the hope and aspiration of healing them as they go forward. But most importantly, they're accepting of them, right? That's that moment of saying, even if they don't energetically heal, I am accepting of them, because that is that moment that feels like the amplification of seeing something and saying, even something that you consider that energetic negative, I see it as a positive, right? And that balancing point between, like, that is what almost deepens the energy in the heart of the divine union frequency, because that's that moment of saying, like, what you consider your red flags, I see as green flags. I don't see anything that creates that caution space that almost allows for that amplification of pathwork going forward. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now, between our High Priestess in its reversal and our Fool card in its reversal. One card to clarify. Clarification coming through right now with our Hanged Man. Masculine and feminine energy that is in the divine, like in separation. And that's one of the things that we're seeing even here too. What is happening right now for a lot of the energy in separation? Why is everything so energetically slow? Because that is, again, that moment of moving in accountability of the energetic timeline that feels like, even with the new connections that are building new energetic connections, that is that moment that is almost moving forward with a sense or degree of conscientiousness on what feels like the comfortability point, with energy that recognizes that they're on a healing journey. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now, between that High Priestess in its reversal and our Fool card in its reversal, we have here our Hanged Man. Masculine and feminine energy right now that is in separation. This is difficult, right? Because we see even now these energies, they're taking a little bit of that wait and see approach, right? But that's what's so beautiful about this here, because these aren't energies right now that are feeling that sense of just energetically going full tilt into something, right? These are energies that recognize that they're finding one another. They're almost like seeing that they're both in that modality of energetically recovering from experiences and circumstances from the past, right? And that the beauty of that energetic moment is almost the experiencing of someone, like, what are these energies doing? They're very conscientious of themselves on the way, right? Because that is the moment of an energy that is always working on that act or that pathwork of energetic refinement. What is that creating right now for the feminine? For the feminine, that's that moment of, again, over assessment of the self. But even here, we see that feminine energy's own ability to almost, again, over energetically think. This is a feminine energy that's able to, like, pull themselves out of their own energetic overthinking to a certain extent, right? That's almost that moment that feels like the amplification of the feminine coming into an activation point that even now we see that the feminine energy is like navigating through. And that is what's allowing a lot of this feminine energy to build forth into new energetic connections. While for masculine energy right now, that ability of building upon that space or state of wanting to trust the feminine, right? Both of these energies taking a little bit of that leap of faith, even in separation right now, with a little bit of that wait and see approach. But that conscientiousness, that trepidation, that is the expression of care, right? Because we're cautious, we're conscientious around things that we very, very, very much care about. So we see even now that that's like almost like those tendrils, like coming out of the earth, if you will, that is like the articulation of the energy trying to utilize that path of deep energetic care and discernment as they proceed forward. So for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union right now, that observational point, seeing someone else navigate something with the care and concern that we would especially aspire and desire it to be received in. That is that moment that feels like that sense of like taking that energetic leap in faith. Like that's almost that moment someone saying, it was at that moment that I knew, right? It was like at that moment that I did not question. Because that is that moment that almost feels like that amplification point in recognizing and identifying something and saying, I took that leap of faith there, because it wasn't even feeling like a leap of faith. It was feeling like the sense of me knowing I can trust, and I'm energetically protected in this space and place, right? And a lot of that feels like that amplification and seeing someone navigate something with the care that you would aspire and desire that they do so. While for the energy right now in the heart of the divine union frequency, this is the energy pushing forward against that comfort zone, right? Going a little bit further there, because this is the energy that's building upon the trust that they have energetically in one another, that allows for that amplification of experience going forward. It allows for that broadening, but through pushing through in a space or place that feels like you create the exception to the rule, because it's that moment of saying, for you I can, for you I will, because that's that moment of saying, that is that moment of saying, we've built upon that energetic trust to such an extent that I feel that I can energetically trust you. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now, between our Fool card in its reversal in combination with our Emperor in its upright. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Ace of Wands in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy right now. In the heart of the divine union frequency, this is just feeling like a lot of path work of activation. Like a lot of wanting to like energetically seize forward right now. So we see even now this could be a lot of productivity today, a lot of activation, just a lot of that like. And that's interesting too, because even though we see, like, it almost says to me the beginning of the day feels like it starts with like a bit of that like slowness. Like this is almost like one of those things that builds up as you move forward today, because we almost see that point of activation is coming through in such an extent that it creates that space of like affirmation going forward that almost like amplifies your own energetic commitment. So we see even now that a lot of the energy, the ability to navigate, the ability to find that sense of energetic timing that feels comfortable, that in itself is continuing to fortify a lot of the energy in the heart of the divine union frequency, because that is that moment energetically wherein you recognize or you see something to a certain extent that makes you feel the energetic confidence of, again, doing something in alignment that builds upon, even if you don't know what to expect, you feel that sense of energetic confidence in the sense of doing it energetically together, right? So we see even now that for a lot of the energy at the heart of the divine union frequency, that is about, again, finding that point, because for the feminine energy right now, it feels more like taking a little bit of that leap of faith, right? Masculine, this is something that the masculine's feeling more energetically secure on. both of these energies right now, building upon that energetic feeling to find that midpoint of comfortability in relationality to healing or working through circumstances and situations that allows for that sense of energetic breakthrough. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is coming into the divine union frequency, this modality, this experience, this work that you're navigating, that ability of seeing the other, holding what you care about at a point of comfortability, with a sense, like almost immediately as soon as you experience that, it's the moment that almost creates a breakthrough point. Because it's almost that moment that begs the question when you feel that and say, if that is how they navigate that, maybe that's not even something that I need to carry. Maybe that's something I can release, right? It just the gesture of being able to do that, just the grain of it, just the smallest ability to see someone hold something in that way creates a new possibility, a new energetic opportunity. And while we see even here for a lot of the energy in separation right now, a lot of the energy in separation, feeling again, a lot of feminine energy right now, potentially seeing and experiencing spaces and places, new opportunities, potentially even with masculine energy, new energetic breakthroughs. But what we appreciate for a lot of the feminine energy in this modality, if in separation, is this is the feminine energy that is looking towards the masculine that has already done this energetic work. Right? That is the feminine energy that's almost navigating those spaces and places, taking a bit of a wait and see approach if there are new masculine energies coming towards them, or energy that is in that place or pathwork of restoration, looking for that indication in relationality to seeing and experiencing something and feeling that energetic change. And we see even now, this isn't a feminine energy that's feeling that sense of like completely throwing themselves into something. That's the difference between feeling the energetic boundary versus holding the standard. But we see even now that for a lot of the feminine energy in that modality right now, that feels like that moment that you're taking, like your own ability to take that wait and see approach, to stay energetically grounded through it, like that in a way almost feels like a confirmation on your own pathwork because it's not energetically triggering you. Well, for masculine energy right now, in separation, masculine energy, if these are these modalities or these pathworks wherein you have set your energetic commitment, you have set your energetic priority, your own ability to move forward towards feminine with that sense of energetic accountability, we see even now that for a lot of the masculine energy, this is what is allowing for a lot of breakthroughs right now in separation, because that is that energetic equivalent or feeling of being able to do something, looking towards the past and letting it reaffirm and build that sense of energetic experience that empowers you as you take those steps forward. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now, between our Emperor card in combination with our Magician card in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Page of Pentacles. Masculine and feminine energy right now in separation. This is just that moment that, again, the feminine energy working through that energetic energy of healing with masculine. And for a lot of the energy of the feminine in separation right now, if this is moments of feminine looking back at the past, what happens when the feminine energy looks back at the past and they don't see that moment or that accountability point in something that they would energetically change? It just creates that state or space of feeling energetic strength, right? Because that's the feminine energy almost moving forward to a certain extent, feeling the revisitation point of the past. But rather than that revisitation point, creating a space or place of anxiety or doubt or fear, it's that moment of energetic affirmation, if you will, that fortifies the feminine even at moments of doubting themselves in relationality to understanding and recognizing what they're seeking in the masculine energy that they're seeking going forward, that empowers them forward with their own energetic commitment. So we see even now that for a lot of the feminine energy going through this moment, this feels very much like your own ability to navigate forward in this way feels like it's energetically healing the past, even in those modalities or even in those experiences, because your own ability not to hold or harbor bitterness towards them, but just let it amplify your commitment towards the present. That is that moment that feels like you're allowing yourself to be able to encounter new experiences from the space and place of energetic opportunity and excitement and possibility, instead of holding that point of space of feeling these like weaknesses or energetic boundaries, right? It creates that sense of motivation for the feminine energy in that way. While for masculine energy right now, in separation, your own ability, your own commitment to that path work, that is that moment that you are also looking back at the past version of self, but you're not letting it create that state or space wherein you're doubting your own self, or you're getting caught in that space of looking at the past and feeling like you would change or adjust something, because that's that moment of saying to oneself, I can do it in the present. That's that moment that feels like that amplification of strength in relationality to seeing something and doing something in a different way that almost fortifies your own sense of energetic commitment right now. So we see even now a lot of the energy in separation, utilizing this moment really to come into that sense or that strength of personal empowerment through the conviction of your energetic commitments. Masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union. The ability of the masculine. What happens in the moment that feminine shows the masculine of vulnerability, shows the masculine of weakness, and the masculine doesn't come into that state of reactivity, doesn't take it energetically personally, but is able to say, thank you, I will hold on to that. I will take care of it. I will cherish it as though it were my own. That is that moment for feminine that feels like it can feel very back and forth, right? Because what happens in the moment that masculine offers something to you in that way, the moment that you feel that energetic security from the masculine, it can remind you of all the spaces and places that may have created wounds in the first place, because that was the moment that you're almost feeling like that was the sense of the space and place where the initial wound was created. Like that's where it started. Like that's really, and that's where we see in a way being able to have that point of karmically healing from something in the moment of recognizing what one should receive instead of what one did receive. That is that moment that, again, for a lot of the feminine energy, reaffirms their own energetic commitment forward at this time. While for masculine energy, coming into divine union, what occurs in those moments wherein, again, you experience a feminine energy that is able to articulate their needs. It's not the fact that the feminine isn't in a state or space of feeling those reactivity points, but instead of, again, subjecting the masculine to the emotions, but letting the emotions build a bridge, helping the masculine understand and see something in a way that allows them to facilitate forward in path work that makes it energetically easy for them. That is the masculine that feels the security and stability of a feminine, because that is the masculine that almost says to the feminine, I am able to bring you my best version of self, and I know that you do everything you can to try to facilitate that point of easement in helping me identify and see that. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, in the heart of the divine union frequency, for the energy at the heart of the divine union frequency right now, that ability, if you will, of being able to navigate something together, coming into those spaces or places, even again, some of those territories, some of those wounds, having that moment to be able to address them, but feeling that energetic confidence in order to do so, being able to facilitate through it. That is that moment that almost builds a tie that binds, because that is that energetic opportunity and experience of effectively seeing something and experiencing something that may have created a wound from you in the past and not having the same energetic feeling. What happens in those moments that you are able to navigate something that is usually energetically sensitive and you don't have the same energetic feeling? That is a moment that reaffirms your own pathwork of commitment, because that's that moment of feeling something and almost saying and seeing the express example of it being energetically healed at the moment that something is energetically touched. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Between our hangman in combination with our Ace of Wands in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Chariot in its reversal. This is not easy work. We're just going to say it. It's not energetically easy work. It can feel very triggering. it can feel very energetically difficult, right? One of the things that we're seeing, this is a lot of that stop and goes, a lot of that start and stop work, specifically for a lot of the energy right now in the divine union frequency. I told you there's a little bit of that wait and see. There's a little bit of that energetic uncertainty, right? And even now, for a lot of the energy right now in the heart of the divine union frequency, being able to navigate through that, it's I want to say it's like a pathwork of energetic refinement, right? Because that is that moment that almost amplifies and articulates the sense of energetic comfortability. And we see even now, like, that energetic mindfulness is almost necessary and required when doing work of this capacity, specifically due to the fact that that is the difference between feeling like you're navigating something and you're feeling like that sense of energetically, like, you know, being triggered to the point that you feel like you're losing control, versus those spaces and places that feel like they're building that sense of energetic confidence. They're building that sense of energetic fortitude. And we see that for a lot of the energy right now in the heart of the divine union frequency, feeling that sense of being able to navigate difficult terrain together, but feeling the security and strength of doing it in a way that you feel safe, seen, and supported. That is the amplification of the energy, feeling the strength of their energetic journey. Because that is that moment that is almost allowing for a space of being able to navigate things that you couldn't typically navigate before, because of requiring or desiring that type of energetic connection. What happens in the moments that we're able to do something in a way and we feel the expansion point or the expression of the energy that's in alignment with us? These are not moments that say to ourselves that we need that outside energetic counterpart, but they're almost those moments that build our own energetic strength, because that is the energy of a counterpart that doesn't create that state or space of energetically relying, like leaning on each other. These are energies that are doing this work to build one's own sense of self, to build one's own sense of energetic strength. And that is something that, again, can feel like it is facilitated together, but it's almost that moment of energetic compassion, because it's that moment of saying we're motivating forward, we're doing this in the presence of another, but we don't necessarily energetically need one another. We're not creating that center of energetic need. We're building it forth from a place of energetic empowerment. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, that energetic equivalent, if you will, that work of doing something in that way, that is that mindfulness that even now, it's not the fact that you're learning each other's maps, you're taking on each other's difficulties and saying or trying to facilitate them. Because do you see how difficult this is when you recognize a wound in another and you need to hold it? You want to be mindful of how someone wants you to carry it, but ultimately you are aspiring and desiring to be able to heal it. That is also that moment that almost feels like the affirmation on the journey, because that is the moment of seeing someone's own limitations, someone's own insecurities, and almost saying to oneself, I'm going to make it my energetic mission to remove that. I'm going to make it that thing that they don't like. I'm going to make it about themselves. I'm going to make it that they love. That weakness, that place that they think that they're soft, I'm going to make them energetically strong. And that commitment isn't one, I need to stress this, doesn't mean you look towards the other and you feel like there is a failure point or something that needs to be energetically corrected, right? That is almost feeling the indication of the highest version of the other self and wanting and saying to oneself, I accept and I appreciate them in their current space or place. But my aspiration, nothing would give me more joy to see them become an even better even better amplification of who they energetically are. Continuing to get clarification on this for a lot of the energy in separation right now. This aspiration, this desire to build forth is almost leading to a lot of conversations that are built on what didn't energetically work in the past, all for the sake of being able to facilitate better, more productive connections going forward. This is hard energetic work, right? This is why we see a lot of the energy right now doing a lot of work in separation. If there's new communication coming through here, or new energetic connections, they're starting with accountability. They're starting with that moment of observation or energetic observation, if you will, on what didn't energetically work, almost telling one another the energetic lessons that are amplifying. What does that do? What does that do when we introduce and we build a part of connection to another by saying, this is where I'm coming from that didn't energetically work. This is what I know I want to do. This is what I know I need to correct. And this is what my aspiration is going forward. Where basically you're seeing a lot of energy right now in separation, giving someone the energetic map and showing them exactly where they are to be able to facilitate whether there is an alignment. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now, between our Ace of Wands in its reversal in combination with our Page of Pentacles. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Ten of Cups in its upright. Masculine and feminine energy right now, in separation. What's really lovely about this is we're seeing that for a lot of the energy right now in separation, this is potentially new connections, new introductions, new energetic possibilities that are springing forth, all from speaking directly towards the manifestation goals. Like this is really that energetic equivalent of talking about what you're aspiring and desiring for from the onset, to make sure that there's that energetic alignment at play prior to moving into that state or space of building some kind of, I want to say, passionate connection. Because this is that energy here that is look, this is energy in healing, in separation, looking and identifying the proximity of new energetic connections prior to being able to build forward on those connections specifically. Because these are energies that are almost looking and saying, are we energetically aligned? Do we have the same manifestation goals? Do we have the same passions? What are you looking to bring forth in this? So we see even now, that setting of the energetic standard, if you will, is what is allowing for a lot of new potential breakthroughs right now, even if in separation. There's a lot of pragmatism coming through in this, but also a lot of possibility. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is coming into divine union, this modality that we are seeing here, this adaptability, this ability to recognize and see, not only building forth right now in communication, but being able to see oneself with the full robust spectrum of the other, feeling that sense of energetic strength, feeling that sense of energetic security, feeling that sense of giving forth. And also that moment of productivity and possibility that is marked through on this. What we're effectively identifying for a lot of that energy coming into divine union right now is that moment that feels to a certain extent like a point of deep energetic alignment, because that is that moment that not only are you discovering each other's vulnerabilities and weaknesses and insecurities, but you're also looking towards one another and saying, I don't see energetically anything there that I don't find that is perfect. I don't see anything there that doesn't feel like it is in energetic alignment. And that is that moment, the accepting of where you find yourselves at this moment, with the possibility and promise to one another of wanting to build forward in even better ways that feels like a lot of that deeper energetic commitment, as it were. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, in the heart of the divine union, a lot of the energy right now at the heart of the divine union is doing a lot of that work. Energetically unpacking, removing a lot of the wounds that you may have brought with you into the divine union frequency, because that is that moment that almost allows for that pathwork of trust that's opened up to such an extent that you're able to navigate with someone in such a way that you're recognizing that sensitivity isn't there, and suddenly it feels like that amplification of new possibilities, new opportunities. Final card for today's spread, between our Chariot energy in its reversal in combination with our 10 of Cups. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Queen of Cups in its reversal. Upright. What am I saying? Reversal. In its upright. Masculine and feminine energy in the heart of the divine union frequency right now. This is like a lot of that energetic gift that we're seeing to a certain extent that's happening around a lot of these circumstances and situations. And a lot of this has to do potentially with, again, the masculine and the feminine building into the heart of that energetic or emotional connection. Why? Because we see even now that this masculine energy that is looking towards feminine in these moments, right? This is the masculine energy, feeling that sense of energetic security, that ability to articulate something, that deepening of an energetic connection insofar of recognizing and seeing and experiencing an ability to potentially talk about the things that they can't discuss before. Feeling that sense of the energetic security point is almost, again, that's that point of masculine that is healing the feminine from within, even at the heart of the divine union frequency. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. While for feminine, this ability of maintaining and navigating that sense of energetic resiliency, coming into that state of being able to be energetically resilient, that is what is creating that state or space for the feminine of feeling that same level or degree of energetic security, because this is what they're bringing forth to one another, right? The masculine feeling that ability to be more energetically vulnerable, and the feminine being able to be more energetically resilient in communicating of the experience of their emotions. This is what creates that sense of energetic breakthrough, allowing for new possibilities to come forth. So we see even now, that is that moment in the divine union frequency that feels like even if there is a hurdle or obstacle, you're building that pathwork in relationality to how to navigate it. Right? Like that's that moment that feels like there isn't any problem, that doesn't have a solution there. So while we see again for the masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, that energetic equivalent, if you will, the masculine and the feminine coming into divine union, doing that work, seeing feminine, seeing masculine, holding forth, being able to hold the energetic wound of the feminine. And not just hold it, but navigate it in the way that they would aspire and desire at this moment. That builds that sense of security for the feminine. While as for the masculine, that same recognition point, that same ability, that same identification in relationality to seeing a feminine, that you have that ability that almost says, when you're ready to energetically talk about something, I am here. When you're ready to express, know that I'm ready. Both of these energies being mindful of what the other needs, while aspiring and seeing that moment or imagining that future wherein they'll be able, even in those limitation points, to potentially heal something. And that's that moment need to articulate, not wanting to energetically change someone, not wanting to turn something into something else, but that moment of seeing the highest version of self, seeing what someone else aspires and desires for themselves and saying, I know how we can energetically get there. I know how to help to bring that out in you. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is in separation, this is a lot of new productive path work that we're seeing that's potentially opening up right now for a lot of the energy in separation. The beauty about it has to do, and we even see now, a lot of the feminine energy just building that ability of being very emotionally feminine energy. If coming through this eclipse season or this cycle, having a lot of that past return, but that moment of feeling that validation in terms of seeing the past arise and not seeing anything that you would energetically do differently, what happens in those moments? That's that feminine energy that's able to move forward with not a moment of feeling wounded, not questioning the self, but almost feeling empowered towards what they know and identify they want to go towards. So even now, a lot of that feminine energy building upon that sense of energetic strength, if you will. While for masculine, this is that moment, and that's a lot of the feminine just utilizing that pathwork of discernment going forward to try to recognize and identify what feels like it's in energetic alignment towards them versus what's not, right? That's the feminine saying, I'm not going to try to change someone's course to match mine. I'm just going to accept if we're moving in the same energetic direction. While for masculine energy, this same ability here, we've got these energies that are still in alignment to a certain degree, because this is the masculine saying, if I aspire and desire something perfect with feminine, I better articulate what I want. Because if not, if I'm not honest and authentic with the feminine will never be honest and authentic with me. This is the masculine almost saying, like, I need to give out what I hope to receive, because that type of authenticity can't be energetically faked. And so a lot of that is the masculine articulating upon your manifestation goals. And again, not feeling that wound of rejection if a feminine says, that's not for me, or that's not what I aspire for. That's just you coming into that point of saying, I guess we're on different paths then. Final card for today's spread is 3 of Pentacles in its upright. Masculine and feminine energy right now. That is in, this is a lot of that. I want to say a lot of this right now has to do with a lot of that reprioritization, if you will. There's a lot of this reprioritization that we see is effectively or energetically arising right now. But this is really beautiful, because I see even now, you know, the only thing I want to be mindful of here is a little bit, I gotta say this, across all, it's a Taurus season. It's stubbornness. It's stubborn. Okay, sorry. No offense to any Tauruses here. But okay, so one of the things that needs to be navigated, did you see how all of this, okay, did you see how everything that I just said here, did you see how everything I just said here has to be about that adaptability moment between what one aspires and desires versus what another aspires and desires. So we see even now that some of this energy has to do with a little bit of that, like that modality of feeling like that energetic sense of wanting something to be the way that one aspires and desires it to be. Right? A lot of that work that we see, especially in the energy of the divine union, requires that ability of adaptability. It requires that moment of being able to be more energetically flexible, right? And so we see that that's something that's happening here across all of the frequencies. So just kind of keep that in mind to a certain extent today, because what we're effectively seeing, it has to do with that. It's because Taurus is in its exaltation right now. So that could lead to a little bit of difficulty in relationality to what you aspire for versus being adaptable for others. So just be energetically mindful of that today. For the energy in the divine union frequency right now, that has to really do with this has to do with your own energetic goals and being very energetically firm. Having that point of energetically sensitivity right now is really valuable and important, because this could lead to a little bit of I want to say when I told you, whenever we're doing this path work of sensitive areas, we can often hit those moments of energetic resistance. It can be a little difficult to navigate. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is coming into divine union. Like I told you, these energies are seeing things that they feel like they would navigate in a different way than the way someone else is holding something energetically. So a little bit of that is hard here, because this is the energy being like a little bit of that biting of the tongue, being I think I can see that solution there, but wanting to be very energetically mindful of how to bring it forth in the other. While for the energy right now in separation, this is a lot of that energetic equivalent. This is the energy, really, when I say really leading forth with the manifestation goals right now, it feels like a lot of energy in separation, coming towards with one another with a lot of that resolve. And while that resolve can be very heartening, it can also be it can sometimes feel a little overwhelming. So we just want to see and navigate that to a certain extent as well, because this is a lot of that density and heaviness that comes from a place, of genuine desire, but can often become or feel a little bit inflexible. That is our daily collective read for today. I'd like to thank you guys so much for being here and experiencing it. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading with me, you can book one on my website, gracestrega.com. My private readings are done over video, and if you are a subscriber to my TikTok, you can take 10% off any of my services when you pay. Just mention your subscriber name at the point of payment. Please keep in mind, if you book a private reading with me, it is a 2-step process. You have to book the reading, you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you would like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I will never, ever reach out to you for a private reading. I will never DM you. I will never PM you. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my website, gracestrega.com. Also, a couple of quick announcements I'd like to make before we close out today's reading. First, and when we get to the personal readings, first and foremost, I would like to let you guys know, if you haven't heard, that I have begun teaching tarot in a digital platform. We are doing a monthly class program called the Tarot Church that you can follow me over on my Substack to be a part of. That is gracestrega.substack.com, spelled the same way that it is spelled here. That program is a monthly deep dive into every card of the tarot. Last month, we focused our time, effort, and energy on the Fool card. This month, we will be focusing on the Magician. All you have to do to become a part of those classes is become a paid subscriber to my Substack. Your subscription will include a free monthly access to the live class that we host each month, as well as all of the recordings and the course materials for the previous classes. So if you missed the Fool class, never fear, you haven't missed it, you can still catch it. Also, your access to those classes will grant you a free access to a one-on-one chat with me and the other subscribers, where you can ask any questions in relationality to the tarot and your own personal journey. Also, if you become a founding member of my Substack, included in your year subscription will not only be access to the full year's worth of courses, but you will also have access to a free one-on-one 1-hour mentorship reading with me, wherein we will review and assess where you are on your own journey, and we will find out what will best help facilitate you learning as much as you can in those classes, and what will help you in your present journey. Again, I want to thank everybody who's already joining us over there. I look forward to you joining us as well. And even if you don't become a paid subscriber to my Substack, I would encourage you to follow me there to be kept up to date to any new offerings, course offering, classes, etc. that I might be offering. I want to thank you guys so much for being here today and sharing with me in these messages. And we will do this again